Joshua Gray, joined as always by my battle buddy, Randall Holcomb. The next matchup, Zulu Swarm versus Simply Irresistible. We'd like to remind everybody, though, to make sure to follow us on Twitter at WGLNA and use that hashtag WGLNA so we can find your tweets and put them up on the broadcast. If you're a Facebook user, also use that facebook.com/WGLNA to find out what's up and coming for the league, who's going to win in the qualifiers. Let us know, comment, and let us know who you're going to be rooting for in Season 5. 5 seasons, Randall. We're starting to see the highs and lows, the lefts, the rights, and everything in between when it comes to tank strategy on these different maps.
Yeah, if there's something we haven't seen, I'd ask someone to show it to us because I feel like I have seen it all at this point.
Well, that's why this new format is not only a breath of fresh air, but it adds so much, as I talked about before, by having these Tier 6s or Tier 7s as part of the lineup instead of the T1 Cunningham. T1 Cunningham is always going to be in that museum of esports history when it comes to tanks of the role that it filled. But now it is a relic. It's something of the past as we see tanks like the Bulldog able to be quite an accomplished role or performing that role that's necessary here. But let's go ahead and talk about this map, Steps, because I always like to bring up Steps as a potential arty map. Your thoughts on this map?
Okay, Steps, as we've always known, is kind of polarized, east and west. So to begin, we should probably begin with what used to happen. Of course, between the two spawn points, it used to be split about that. You can see the white line splitting the map. And then across north-south, it would be somewhere along the lines of a ridge line. And that would be how it was split. You could take either side north-south, and then you could take east-west, kind of, or northeast, southwest. And of course, you got more area in the southwest. With the way the new caps fill out, we have a northwest cap and we have an east cap. And with the attacker being where he is, you have two different routes that are obvious in order to access this. Where else can we go, Josh?
Well, I always like the No Man's Road. The No Man's Road was something that teams would never use in their strategy until the Cazadores, the Hunters, started to use this road as a last-ditch effort on some maps. But on other maps, it became a very, very prevalent way to overwhelm your opponent quickly. It became almost like the fast cap route. It was also a great, I need to get to the other side of the map as fast as possible and not take any fire, and I have 3 minutes left. Let's take the No Man's Road. So teams are starting to implement this type of cover and travel that is not necessarily good at the beginning of the matchup, but can change completely.
Yes, I really like the No Man's Road as well. And it allows you to jump very quickly right into the face of your opponent and just begin an engagement, which I think is one of the key things that you're going to be attempting to do on maps across the attack-defense game format.
While we still have this up, though, I want to talk about this position right here.
Okay.
This ridge line. This area has always been such a what's going to happen type of play because it's the northern side of the Eastern Valley. This Eastern Valley was always great for the northern side. This turned into a defensive play against what was happening on the railroad tracks in the Alpha Bravo quadrant. And we would see implementations of those railroad tracks of long-range fire or 1390s, especially from Soviet on the former Fnatic, when he would creep into this area and then become a thorn in the side of the defenders, you would say, up in that section. Well, what happened, though, is it became almost a Revolutionary War type battle where long-range firefighting is happening on both sides, and that's when the No Man's Road would be used from north to south to swing down, get behind the opponent, get over to the Eastern Valley, throw some aggression, throw some shots against those tanks, pull those tanks towards you. Now you have a turret break. Those tanks are looking somewhere else. Your northern flank is open for an attack. You move in and you get the kill. Yeah. That was my favorite implementation of Steps.
That's pretty good. I kind of just liked. I kind of liked when teams would do that flex around the back end. Mm-hmm. They would go east and then they would find themselves going west again, and then they would just flip back one more time, and their opponent wouldn't pick up the timing, or they would throw them off with that. And you'd see little fakes here and there, and I loved when those would work out. Of course, in this format, you're only going to see that back and forth kind of attack from the attacker. The defender probably swinging around like that is going to be very risky and dangerous with the way the caps are oriented. now I'm trying to think about what kind of strategies the defender, because we've already gone over attacker, but the defender, what can they bring and what options do they have? Of course, the initial is find a good spot, set up, get your cover.
I want to bring up equipment. I feel that binoculars is a really, really important piece of equipment to have for some of these tanks with that longer range, because you're able to scout those enemy positions faster, and sometimes if they're not careful enough, maybe see some of that transition where you see two of those tanks moving at this flank and you think, I only saw two, and somebody else saw one, so you know there's threats from both positions. So as a defender, you go, okay, this is more information. This is better than just having one route that they're taking. We know how to defend both areas here. I feel that having that equipment is going to be more prevalent on defenders rather than attackers.
I definitely agree with that. You can take maybe if you do a 2 tier 7 lineup, you can take the Walker Bulldogs like we saw with Get Flanked, and maybe equip them with some binoculars, put them in some bushes in the right spots, and they can cover each cap. And then have a decently flexible group, medium tanks, maybe a T-32, one T-32 in there. I think two of them might be a little bit too slow to react properly to some situations.
Sure. Especially with the type of map this is, because there is a lot of open range. And if you're a T-32, all right, let's be frank, it is my favorite tank, but gosh darn, it is slow.
Yeah.
And it can take so much fire, especially from lighter tanks. You get two Walker Bulldogs behind a T-32, it is a grievance. It is not good, and that's all you need to take it down.
Yeah. Another thought that has just occurred to me is perhaps the T-29, the kind of little brother of the T-32. Instead of bringing smaller Tier 7 light tanks to play the scouts, you could bring a T-29 and use it in hold down to cover your various areas of cap. It's relatively slow, not as fast as the T-32.
Sure.
But flexible enough.
It is. It can fulfill that role, right? The reason you bring a T-32 or any of these tanks is to fulfill a certain role in the strategy. A T-29 can do it. Are there differences? Of course. The hull is bigger, so it's a bigger target for a lot of these tanks, but it still has a lot of armor to the front, and a hold-down position is great for a T-29. When you're playing through the game, you want to play a lot of games with the T-29 before you get the T-32, obviously to unlock it, but also to teach you the correct principles of how the T-32 is played with that hold-down position. Yeah. That is a really good point, Randall, one that I always thought, why would I bring a T-29? I'm going to bring a T-32. Well, because the nature of the points have changed, there's a very viable option.
Yeah, because you can just have it fulfill the exact same role. It's still got the 105 if you like that. I know you like the 105.
I do. I like that damage.
Yeah. And the 90 millimeter it has, I believe if you fire gold, it's just about, or it might be just as effective as the 90 mil you could have. And I think reload rates are a little bit different, but altogether the T-29 is just as serviceable. Yeah. And you could use those points elsewhere to have a bigger light tank or to bring something else that's incredibly potent.
Let us know your thoughts on the equipment or any of the tank lineups that you've seen tonight. That has been the question of the day. What are your thoughts and first impressions on the 7x54 lineup? That being said, folks, let's go ahead and focus on the match we have upcoming. Zulu Swarm versus Simply Irresistible. Yes, another SIP team is trying to join the fray, as we just saw Simple Tankers. Taking a look at those rosters, maybe these are names we'll never see again, or names that we're going to see for a long time after this. That's the nature of the qualifiers here. Frankly, Randall, I was able to talk to a couple of these individuals just mostly about the teams. Zulu Swarm's happy to be commentated by us, happy to be broadcasted, and Simply Irresistible finished third in the Bronze League last season. Let's see what these teams bring to steps on 7x54. That being said, what do we have for tanks?
All right, 2 T-32s, 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs, and that looks to be Zulu Swarm. They are the blue team attacking. Simply Irresistible, T-32, T-69, 2 1390s, RU-251, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. It's the red team attacking. And okay, let's start thinking about these lineups and how they work out. The T-32 for Simply Irresistible.
I like it.
I wanted to hear what your thought was before I put in my own.
So the two T-32s versus the T-32 and the T-69. That's the major difference I see right here. It is adequate, but I am concerned if that T69 is not at the right place at the right time. Honestly, the battle buddy should be that T69 and that T32 because he can be such a great finisher, that T69, and also that T32 can block when that T69 is in trouble. And I feel that if they work together well on this map, this will be at least a really good performance on those two tanks. But it's a team effort, and as we look at the team moving to the north, Ro8 and the Bulldog is going to be taking the most northern position past those train tracks into that area that I mentioned before.
And it looks like Fingon is going to be able to escape here after a nice opening scout run to the west where he was able to pick up a few spots. Looks like a few shots actually ringing and 153 damage into the back of that tank. He is able to get out of that, I think, ahead in intel as far as I'm concerned. I don't think damage is a big factor. That 150 damage doesn't mean anything.
Sure. 4 or 5 tanks now up on those railroad tracks, and they're going to get closer. The T69, Kaiser Viticus, inching closer in his tank. As he becomes the point man, this is that southern approach we talked about. There is one tank from Simply Irresistible down in Hotel 2, but look at Zulu Swarm. They have 2 tanks of their own in the south.
Yeah, those are RU-251s. We've got Panzer Gunner and Inkney looking to the north. It looks like they might have some good crossfire if something shows up. And they also are, I'm guessing, going to completely lay waste to the M41 as soon as he shows up. Give it a few seconds. I think he's going to be able to proxy, and that's a proxy right there. 251 versus M41 should be easy unless there's good support from the north.
Skorky, oh, dodges a shot, returns fire for 150. He's going to tell that to his grandkids if he makes it out of here.
But support is on the way. M41 coming from the north down the no man's road. Misses a shot on the move on Inky. And they're not going to go for it. I think they're going to pull out, actually, opting not to get overrun by any reinforcements on the way. However, Ro8 could be taking some damage in a minute. Did Panzer Gunner just shoot Inkney in the back?
Oh, I hope not, but Inkney take a number of hits here. And now 862 in that total volley. Ro8 trying to get the kill. And can he get it? He does. Panzer Gunner now in trouble in 2 and 1. And look at this, the Walker Bulldog able to block the shot.
They're firing just too fast, doing too much damage. And I don't think Zulu Swarm was making their shots count like they needed to. And the risk did not pay off. It's really biting them right now. We see Simply Irresistible able to respond perfectly and actually take on 2 tier 8s with 2 tier 7s.
And the aftermath of the spread is Simply Irresistible having a lot more map control, but still 5 tanks remain for them to get the win. And Skorky found 2 of them, took 1 shot to the rear.
Yeah, was he not paying attention or something?
He was focused. I think he was probably in first-person mode, sniper mode, focused straight down to maybe get a shot.
Well, Al-Anon's
tunnel vision.
Yeah, Al-Anon's not in a good position anyway. He stayed too long, and now there's 2 1390s on the way with the M41 in support. And up north, it's about even as far as forces go. The Walker Bulldog Ro8 is kind of low, but you've got this huge overmatch in the south where Simple Tankers is going to be able to just rip them apart. And this might even be an attack win to start the match, which I think is going to really hurt Zulu Storm's morale.
Al-Anon being chased by Bobby. 3-0-1, 3-0-1. Pork Chop comes in on the side for ram damage. Skorky gets it. And Bobby still in a firefight with Pork Chop. Pork Chop goes down. Fingon 15, one of the 3 tanks that remain for Zulu Swarm. No tanks have fallen yet for Simply Irresistible. Bobby does not want to be the first as JD is pressing up against Fingon. Nice ram damage. And there goes another tank. 2 tanks remain now for Zulu Swarm as Simple Tankers has put some tanks on the flag cap. Look at that northern flank. Flak and Ro8 are in a little bit of trouble here. Ro8 is back as the T69 and the RU-251 are on the mix. Kaiser from up top. Able to land another shot.
It's all clean up here. Both caps are being pressured, and it looks like Frodo T. Baggins is going to be left all alone. I think marksmanship is really the key point I could hit on for this battle. Zulu Swarm had a good setup, good strategy here, but they missed shots, and I can back that up maybe with a little positioning. I don't think they reacted to their opponent quite well enough, And you could see in that fight versus M41 Walker Bulldogs in the south, the one that I think really just decided the whole match, shots were not connecting where the M41s were connecting. And they were putting out much more damage. But they were tier 7s against tier 8s.
That makes a big difference. It really will. I really liked the T69's perch and also placement. At the end, you saw a couple of the shots bounce. But it seemed every individual of Simply Irresistible knew exactly what they were doing or needed to be doing to be flexible. Did not see the same thing coming from Zulu Swarm. I felt that their initial push, their initial strategy failed, and so they were scrambling.
I definitely agree. Okay. They just didn't have a backup plan. Yeah.
Got to have multiple backup plans. Multiple. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay here. And Alanon is on the run. Ram damage coming from the Walker Bulldog. But look at this. Just completely crowded. Another ram damage takes out another tank, and they're good to go. A little bit of danger for one of the teammates, and then a lot of destruction for the opposing force because of it.
Yeah. I really feel that Zulu Swarm seems kind of outclassed looking at this battle right off in the beginning.
It's neat to see that two simple teams, one in the previous match, obviously, but Simple Tankers wins as the attacker. Now Simply Irresistible wins as the attacker. I hope this is not a trend that attackers have the roughest time. At least we maybe won't see as many wins from the attacking side. But it's those teams that are able to show their aggression and to have a strategy as the attacker, I feel will do the best, perform the best in 754. However, we may be getting ahead of ourselves. That was only the first battle, the second match so far. Zulu Swarm may have a couple more tricks up their sleeve. And let's see what will happen in battle number 2 on steps between Simply Irresistible and Zulu Swarm. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
For tanks, 2 T-32s, 1390, 2 RU-251s, M41 Walker Bulldogs, that's 2 of them. And that is Zulu Swarm, the blue team defending. Simply Irresistible, going to have their second shot at it with T-32, T-69, 2 1390s, single RU-251, and 2 Walker Bulldogs. Now, 2 1390s seems very interesting to me. I don't know if it's because the players themselves do not have RU-251s or if it is because they prefer 1390s. I'm leaning towards they don't have RU-251s simply because I think it's such a potent tank right now that it just outclasses the 1390 in most cases. It has a good fire rate, better speed, the mobility seems awesome. And it's not an autoloader. It doesn't have these huge gap times, and it just can keep pumping out significant damage.
Vode takes the lead in the Walker Bulldog, close to the railroad tracks. But Zulu Swarm has changed. Notice they're swarming around that flag cap, but they're staying closer to those railroad tracks, and now they're pressing up against Vode. Perhaps to find...
Oh, that's a mistake.
Him unprepared, and Alanon is not prepared for this. That 1390 is going to take a lot of damage before they're able to take down Vode. Oh! The RU-251 goes to the ram damage, does a lot of HP damage to the Walker Bulldog. But look how low he is. Inky falls. Vode so close to falling. And now we have a corner game around some rocks between these teams.
Simply Irresistible, I think, is... They definitely should have destroyed the 1390 sooner. You saw how many missed shots just hit dirt. Alanon should be dead by all rights, and he has barely survived. Vodon should be in a much better shape because of that. And I think Simply Irresistible may have been caught off guard by that kind of an attack. However, Vodon, getting a little aggressive, might go down to some fire, although I think bigger forces are distracting those T-32s right now.
The RU-251, Panzer Gunner, and Fingon now getting close to JD. And from behind, look at this flank coming from Zulu Swarm. And they see Phallic. They're going to try to focus on the T-32, but 2 shots into the Walker Bulldog makes him fall back. 3 tanks now perched up from Zulu, trying to get a couple hits against these tankers down below. But these are not hold-down tanks, and the Walker Bulldog is almost down as Flak is able to hold the 2 T-32s up on the hillside, allowing the rest of his teammates to counter this swarm. Kaiser takes a big hit for 312 damage. And here is the engagement. Still a little bit more movement coming from Steiner Pride. And they take down Fingon. Fingon falls, and there goes Panzergunner.
And now we've got 3 tanks on Pork Chop. Should be able to go down shortly. There he goes. And now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 3 tanks. However, Kaiser should be going down shortly. Looks like we've got Zulu Swarm going for the T-69, but he's able to defend himself for a little while.
For a little while. Flak still holding the line against these enemy T-32s. 2 tanks remain for Zulu Swarm. JD in the 1390 getting behind. Skorky and the Bulldog trying to do the same. T-32 falls. 260 on that last shot. Skorky trying to line up a hit. Now the T-32s they have a lot of HP, and they can hold against these light tanks for a little while at least, but now Frodo Baggins is unable to disappear. And Skorky is going to fall in along with JD for the surround. 2 tanks remain for Simply, and they land the last shot. Simply Irresistible puts another point on the board as they lead. As the attackers in the first 2 battles, now they're going to become the defenders.
Now, does this say that Steps is an attacker-heavy map?
No. We can't say that yet.
Yep.
We can only say that, hey, Simply Irresistible is doing things better than Zulu Swarm right now. That's the only thing that we can assess with that information. I am intrigued to see that it was this type of battle on this area of the map. This is that area of the map on those rocks where teams will move to for cover and then move away from in order to get into the engagement. I appreciated what Zulu Swarm was trying to do to make the engagement happen away from the flag cap, but they were not prepared for that amount of tanks. Now look at this. Look at this. Zulu Swarm has the higher ground in a sense, but they do not have hold down tanks except for these T-32s. Frodo's taken way too much damage, and now Flak is still going to hold against these T-32s, and the rest of his team is going to move away from Flak's position and surround those tanks.
Yeah, Zulu Swarm gave ground where they should not have. They should have kept the fight out in the open where the T-32s could come and help. But what they did is they gave ground and they got overmatched very quickly. And that's just basic brawl tactics there. You keep the fight where you need it, where you have more guns than they do, and they took the fight into a place where they had less guns. And that is just where everything fell apart in my eyes.
Hopefully Zulu Swarm can bring it back together, and as the attackers, maybe that's what they wanted in the first place, and Simply Irresistible knew something that we didn't. But tough being at this type of deficit for your first ever engagement on a broadcast, but they're happy to be here. We're happy to have them. And let's see what other tricks they have up their sleeve. Simply Irresistible, acting so far worthy of the Simp title.
Yeah, the very competent strategies, very tight in some areas, and it does need a little work. You can see why maybe they need to aspire a little bit better in some areas. There's a few missed shots, a few crazy things. Altogether, though, they are handling themselves rather well against Zulu Swarm right now.
A couple more seconds left in the countdown here, as we will maybe see more heavy type tanks coming from the defenders, or will they stick to what worked as the attackers to get behind the enemy? And having that type of mobility can be very, very important, especially when they are assaulting from multiple flanks. You got to get over to the other flag if there's more tanks over there compared to what's happening on the other side, especially on steps and east versus west. All right, Randall, this is going to be our 3rd battle in the second matchup for tonight. What do we have for tanks?
All right, so taking a look at first at Zulu Swarm, they will be the red team attacking. They've switched sides, so they're no longer blue, they're red. And they've brought an IS-3, a Pershing T-1390, 2 RU 251s, and then their Tier 7s will be 2 Walker Bulldogs. The IS-3 is an interesting choice, breakthrough tank leading the charge. Once it gets up to speed, it's fast enough, and it's going to be supported by a medium and then light tanks down the line. Simply Irresistible, T-32 Pershing, 2 1390s, RU 251, and then 2 Bulldogs. T-32 against that IS-3, so hold downs are going to favor Simply Irresistible in the defense. They've matching Pershings. They've got a little bit more burst in the 1390s, but I feel like the 251s are just so incredibly potent. And now, opening moves, both teams have chosen East. I think Simply Irresistible has done their homework, and Zulu Swarm is finding themselves in a bit of a confusing situation. I don't think they were quite prepared to be met this early with this much of an opponent.
Oh, big shot against Pork Chop. Quickly, Randall, I want to comment on this type of movement coming from Zulu Swarm. If their intention was to move up to the Eastern Valley and then take it, they can't do that anymore. So this is where teams will find themselves of, all right, let's look for a possible shot, get a shot on the opponent, and then we'll work from there. If your strategy is to move up to this Eastern Valley, and guess what? Your opponent is there to stop your strategy, pick a different strategy. Have a backup plan. Don't try to finagle your way into this strategy by having long-range shot and a little bit of luck.
You're not set up for that. They're not set up for that kind of a long-term engagement. They needed a T-32 or something. The Pershing might be able to do it, but I think the motions Zulu Swarm is going for might be hitting upon the possible answer.
And look at this defensive line from the T-32 and the Pershing, and then you have the 1390 to back them up as well. They have this on lockdown for this frontal approach. Now Zulu Swarm is trying to figure out a different way to get in that area of the map, and two of the tanks were trying to use the No Man's Road. If I was a coach, I would remind myself, and I remind my team, or the commander, there's 2 flag caps. There's not just one.
They could have gone for that, but I think they were deciding that might not be the best strategy. They don't want to actually lose all of their tanks to a counterattack. Simply Irresistible can make a counterattack and possibly defend their cap at the same time if they can get the overmatch they need. Now, it looks like Simply Irresistible has backed out, is going to be going for a flank with their 1390 Walker Bulldog combo, but they need to hold the front. They're taking plenty of damage. One of their M41s is down to below half hit points. Vote on. And Kaiser has taken a little bit of damage as well as they've given ground. But now it looks like the Swarm is moving right onto these light tanks in the middle. Can they hold and can the damage come out? What is the response from Simply Irresistible as there are 4 tanks taking on 2 right now?
Well, this is the really tough part because that window of opportunity has now closed for those longer range tanks to do a lot of damage to the ones focused on this Bulldog, and they fall. That's 2 tanks down for Simply Irresistible. Are they going to move? Yes, they're now moving south. They're going to go for the surround for the 2 tanks on the Zulu Swarm that stayed behind. They want to counter their aggression with aggression of their own, and now that they're down a tank, they need to trade this out.
They need to get in there right now because here come the light tanks. They're up and over. JD and Stry are in, and the Pershing should go down. One more shot. That, I don't think, is going to prove to be very valuable here. They're about to lose their Pershing.
There goes Kaiser. They're focused on the IS-3 rather than the light tanks. They want to take down that Alpha Strike damage as fast as possible, but that IS-3 can take a lot of damage. That T-32 not able to get that last shot. JD does in the 1390, but JD's pulling out. The T-32 flak is not fast enough and does not have the firepower to take down all these tanks alone. This is going to be the slow but inevitable downfall of Simply Irresistible on steps in Battle 3 as the defenders. And flak falls. 1 tank left. It's JD. Fingon fires, but Panzer Gunner actually gets the shot. Fingon able to shoot in time. And just like that, Zulu Swarm puts a point on the board as the aggressors against Simply Irresistible.
I think that was just a mistake on the side of Simply Irresistible. It didn't even seem like the 2 light tanks that were moving down the No Man's Road were even spotted. It just seemed like out of nowhere, 4 light tanks decided, hey, let's go to the No Man's Road. Let's go around to flank. Or let's go for the northern cap. And it happenstance worked out for them that they were in a 4v2. I don't know if that was perhaps a mistake on the side of Simply Irresistible or Zulu Swarm quite getting lucky, maybe a little bit of both, because they didn't know exactly where all of their opponents' tanks were.
I wish we had a replay of the very first push across that No Man's Road, because that is the type of decision that Simply Irresistible needs to make of they're going for our light tanks, everybody push up and fire long range against those tanks trying to take our light tanks pull back. The light tanks moved up. They stayed in that position. And once they were scouted, that's when you have to veer off course. You have to make that decision of, oh no, 4 tanks are coming from us, we need to get away from here.
Yeah, abort.
Yeah. And that's a tough decision to be in. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay here, what I'm talking about. This is such a great opportunity right here for those tanks from Simply Irresistible to land those long-range shots, and then that opportunity is gone like that.
I even missed the Walker Bulldog coming in late. I thought that was 4 tanks. I missed out on a 5th one being there. That is a massive overmatch. Simply Irresistible just did not have the lineup that was appropriate to respond in kind to that kind of an overmatch.
This is that card I was talking about. Zulu Swarm, if they had something up their sleeve, this was it. Swarming their opponent. They did it, and this is the power of these light tanks with that speed. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
Okay. IS-3 again, Pershing again, 1390 again, 2 RU-251s and 2 Bulldogs. No big changes here from Zulu Swarm. Simply Irresistible, T-32, Pershing, 1390s, 2 of them, RU-251, and then the Bulldogs. So we see that both teams have decided that Bulldogs are awesome tanks and we should always bring them.
You know who made that call? A. Martin from the Cunninghams.
Yeah?
He said the Bulldog would be the tank used the most. Now, again, this is only the first night of qualifiers, but assessing the information, I think we're going to see a lot of Bulldog.
So it's the new T1 Cunningham, as it were.
Maybe.
The new light, lower-tiered tank that we're going to see in every single battle.
Well, we saw that T-37 get ripped apart here pretty quickly. Possible engagement happening from Skorky and Vode. Shot fired against the Panzer Gunner. Does not connect. He fires back against Skorky. He takes a hit. And Panzer Gunner did not take the same amount of damage. Very, very small victory there for Zulu Swarm as they're going to get away from that eastern valley.
Just a little over 100 damage onto him. It's not a big deal. He can work with that. But look at the caps.
Look how exposed the
yeah.
western cap is.
They Simply Irresistible has taken a risk with their strategy, and I think they're about to get bit by it. Zulu Swarm is about to get control of the cap. They can even screen it if they set up appropriately, and that'll be an easy cap. That should be it. They just have to recognize their advantage here and then jump on it, because Simply Irresistible is all over their east cap. Their west cap is completely exposed at this point. Although they are sending Skorky over, and I'm worried about him.
I'm worried too, because he just took a shot for 131, now 375, now 513 in that volley. Skorky.
666.
Oh no, Mark of the Beast for the Bulldog.
I think that spells death soon enough.
He is a sliver of health away. 29 hit points left on the Bulldog as Skorky gets out of there. Kaiser Victus and Flak will cover his retreat as they're looking for any possible shots, but again, this is the type of element of, hey, our enemies in this location, they have a better position than us. Let's head to their position on this side.
Sweet deal.
They need to look to the south. And
although I think Zulu Swarm has kind of waited too long. Look at the positions that we've kind of missed them moving up. We got Frodo sniping in an IS-3, Pershing in a decent hold-down position, firing at Kaiser, his Pershing at the opposite side. And we're not seeing a lot of cap pressure here.
Yeah, this is contextually the smartest play that Simply Irresistible could be doing with this type of tank with the Pershing and the T-32 is they're technically guarding that western flag position. And they're in a great place to guard it in these hold-down positions. However, the rest of the team's going to have to make a decision. Do we need to move in against this western flank? Because if enough of these tanks from Zulu Swarm move into Alpha 1, Bravo 2, swing with Fingon, and focus on these tanks that have the long-range fire in the hold-down position, they could, again, swarm, another swarm scenario here, but I don't think Simply Irresistible is going to be fooled twice.
No, although it is strange to see the way their light tanks are grouped up. Look at those over at the cap. You can see JD, Bobby, and Pride.
Yep.
All sitting on the east cap, not trying to snipe anything out, simply waiting for maybe a southern flank or to jump on something. This is similar to what we saw last time, actually, where we saw 2 tanks go down the no man's road and Zulu Swarm respond with a huge overmatch of 5 light tanks. This is maybe them trying to imitate that situation, wait for it to happen, and then jump on it, because we do have 2 light tanks in the south. We have Inky and Panzer Gunner. They could get swarmed if they're discovered out of position.
Well, unfortunately, Zulu Swarm's not making a move, and every second that ticks by is a second against them. They are the ones that have to aggress. They are the ones that have to either get the flag cap or defeat their opponents. Simply Irresistible is holding the line. They're doing exactly what they need to do to get the win.
And there's some light tank fire coming in. Inkney is down by 753 hit points. Vodon did take a hit from Panzer Gunner earlier, kind of scaring him off, but it's paid off. They have won in a hit point battle right there. Now, Simply Irresistible has lost out a little bit. They've got that M41 that's sitting on 29 hit points, but he was actually able to deal damage in this situation. I think Zulu Swarm is going to find it very difficult to make that flank happen, although they are going to initiate the cap.
And here comes the press from the 1390 and the RU-251 that were looking towards the south. They're going to congregate as a team as the 2 American heavy tanks Well, the T-32 is a heavy tank, and the M26 Pershing as the medium will cover their press, and Pork Chop's going to be the first to fall. Look at this, a counter swarm from Simply Irresistible.
That's what they were waiting for. You could see it with them on that eastern cap. That's what they were going for. And now they've abandoned their eastern cap, but they've got a huge overmatch against Frodo Baggins and Kook Matt.
Frodo could be the next one to fall. He is. Nice shot from behind in the RU-251. However, the RU is in trouble. And Fingon wants a kill. He gets it with the Bulldog. Can he get a second one? Vote falls to Fingong as well. Fingon now in a 2v1, and JD gets the kill. 3 tanks remain for Zulu Swarm as Simply Irresistible holds on to 4 tanks almost with full HP. 1390 could be reloading as these light tanks, RU-251, occupied by Inkney, Panzer Gunner in the other one, and Al-Anon 144 in the 1390.
Ooh, JD has gotten so close to dying right there. A 1390 probably on reload, going for a scout run where 2 RU-251s were just so very close. And I think they're going to begin jumping on that right now as JD is going to need to get back to his lines. Or else, well, I don't think it'll turn out very nice, but 482 damage on Panzer Gunner. I think that's a good start for Simply Irresistible. They might be able to take this.
It's good enough. JD says, come get me! As Inkney gets taken down by the 1390. Beautiful long-range shot. And trying to land another shot against Al-Anon. JD's blocking, however. Al-Anon's trying to stay behind him. And he falls. Panzer Gunner is the next one to go down. Al-Anon's the last one left for Zulu Swarm. Long-range shot takes him down for 236. 31 seconds left in the battle. Simply Irresistible is going to put another one on the board. Can they do it on time or on tanks? And can they get the final shot? Bobby is on the chase. He wants to take this tank down. He wants to make Al-Anon pay for it with his credits to repair this baby. And Bobby presses up over the hill, sees his target. 9 seconds left to go. Goes for ramming damage. Can't get the kill exactly. Fires from afar as Flack, and he gets the kill. Simply Irresistible is up 3-1 against Zulu Swarm. Patient, decisive, nice play.
Yeah, I really liked the plan. You could see what was going on from the placement of the tanks. You could see light tanks grouped up around the eastern cap, keeping that secured, but they were very prepared to simply go in as a hit squad, find a tank, jump on it, move on to the next one. Because Zulu Swarm would not have enough time with the light tanks moving quite as quickly as they will. You've got RU-251s, 1390s. That is just more than enough to deal with any one tank on the battlefield. And you can see how they're able to take tanks that are out of position, cut off, and just rip them apart for minimal cost. 1 kill. And then you get another. Tanks on cap. IS-3 is good to cover the Pershing, but not when you've got speed like this. Pershing doesn't stand a chance. IS-3 falls. And here's where it does kind of begin to cost Simple Tankers. They've done a good job at sharing health. Zulu hasn't focused fire very well. It does work out in their favor, though, and Simply Irresistible tears apart Zulu Swarm's positions and just throws them into disarray.
And this is always that oh no type moment when you bring an autoloader tank, when you bring those 1390s, those T69s, or even the AMX 5100, is when you get into the fray and you miss a couple shots and there's 2 tanks remaining and there's 3 of you and 2 of you reloading. Guess what? There's only 1 tank in the fight. So that is a very cautious type scenario that Simply Irresistible and even Simple Tankers and everyone else from Simp has to be very mindful of. But that's why, again, Randall, these new light tanks are exciting to see. They have the mobility and they have the firepower. Believe the Bulldog or the new American light tank takes a long time to shoot, though.
You're talking about the Walker Bulldog and its autoloader. It does have a decent amount of time between clips, I think is what it is.
Yeah, the T49.
Oh, the T49.
The T49 is
now
slow.
I get it. That's what you're going for. T49,
Yeah.
152 millimeter cannon, firing absurd heat or HE rounds. Just crazy. It's like a KV2, but fast. It doesn't have any accuracy at all. So when you're firing on the move, your shots can go anywhere. But of course, with RNG, the way it is set up, most of your shells are going to go to the middle, but you're going to get these few stray ones that just go off into crazy land.
I would like to see the T49 in a city map, a map like Himmelsdorf, which is going to be our next map between these 2 tanks. Because it's a run and gun. It's one of those tanks that you get up close, you fire, and you get the heck out of there.
It could
if
be
you're able
effective.
to get out of there.
Yeah, it could be effective, but if the team goes heavy on the IS-3s,
sure.
I think it's not quite as effective. If you get a shot into the engine deck, or you get a shot into the top of the turret, you know, that weak spot on the top of an IS-3, there's one thin little plate. You can pen it easy any day right on the top of the turret. And if you get those two spots, it could work out great.
I would play it as a berserker type tank. I would play it as getting behind enemy lines and finding the 5100s. And shooting those once or twice. You don't have to go for the kill. You get close, you get one shot, and you get out of there. That 5100 can take a lot of damage from the T-49.
Perhaps, but I feel like you're putting a huge Tier 8 tank, a lot of value, out of position. And either it's going to get jumped on, or the rest of their team is just going to say, oh, T-49 over there? Sweet, let's go, and let's attack.
It's the type of scenario where I would bring the 6 Tier 8s. So that one Tier 6, I'm still figuring it out, what I would bring, but I would want one of those Tier 8s as a T-49.
Yeah, I'm still theory crafting, too. I'm still trying to figure this out, but I feel like I've developed a strong opinion for the T-49 in that it's just so unpredictable, and that the reload time on that 152 is so much that it's hard to deal with.
It is. That's why it's a run and gun. You shoot once and you get out of there if you're able to make it. Battle number 5 between Zulu Swarm and Simply Irresistible is about to begin on Himmelsdorf in the new 7x54 format. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
All right. A 110, two 5100s, two IS-3s, an IS, and an IS-2 for Zulu Swarm. I'm not sure why the IS-2, but maybe we can figure it out as the battle progresses. Simply Irresistible, they're going to have two 5100s, three IS-3s, and two Tiger 1s. The Tiger 1, nice beefy tank. Not, of course, amazing armor. It's not going to bounce a whole lot here, but it is an effective gun.
The firepower is definitely effective, but if you are able to shoot that tank down below, it can catch on fire.
Oh, dude, it catches on fire all the time.
It does. I'm excited to see it, though.
We'll have to see how it plays out.
Massive tank.
This is a hugely Russian lineup, though, from Zulu Swarm. A lot of alpha. 122mm cannons on everything but the 110 and the 5100s.
This is the Shia LaBeouf bullseye right there.
Actually, wait, I want to look at that IS-2. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a dangerous tank. It is just ever so slightly different. It's got a nice sloped front, which I find can be decently effective. The IS, of course, still good armor. It's very troll armor. There's a just tiny section on the front, which is just about auto bounce. And I like when I get bounces off of it. It's just so rewarding. You're up against something bigger than yourself, like an IS or a 5100. Bounce shots all day. Zulu
Swarm has crossed into enemy territory, and as a complete team is in Delta 5 and moving up the 5 line. Right. Now they've split.
Kugmat going first to absorb shells.
Kugmat takes 2 big hits, 696. Pork Chop tries to fire back against speed weaponry, 414 in that volley. But look at this possible pincer attack coming from Zulu Swarm. And the Tiger 1.
Oh, it's a trap.
3 will try to stop it. But Kaiser coming around the corner.
It's a trap.
Oh, careful, Kaiser. The Tiger 1's going to take a huge volley of shots, and he's going to have to fall back. And now Zulu Swarm is going to press up against the weak point in Simply Irresistible's junction. Vode goes down in that T1, and Kaiser is going to try to hold the south on his own. However, this could be a reverse push from Simply Irresistible towards the flag cap.
Very well played right there. We're going to see an overmatch. Pork Chop should die very quickly if they can get him down, and then they'll deal with the 5100s. But if they can, the IS-2 Kugmat is also very low. They just need to get a kill to even this up as far as tanks. If they can't, the effectiveness of the IS-3 on the side of Zulu Swarm might be able to bring this in. And the damage spread on Simply Irresistible, look at it. Everyone is just so low right now.
Bobby in the 5100 trying to hold against these 3 tanks as Kaiser. Oh, Bobby still left alive barely. Kaiser needs to move in and hopefully take down Maticus. Can't get it. Maticus Rex still left alive. Kaiser takes 705 damage in that volley. Panzer Gunner and Al-Anon are now pushing up against Simply Irresistible, who takes down another tank. Pork Chop. Bobby goes down. Kaiser could be the next one of these 3 tanks are able to get it.
And I think Simply Irresistible has made a really big mistake here. They have not focus fired well enough, and now a bunch of their tanks are left at incredibly low health, where you see very healthy Zulu Swarm tanks in equal number.
And this is the last stand for Simply Irresistible. These tanks are all at about 10% hit points. Fingon in the 5100 can take down all of these tanks. However, shoots into the side of Flak, and he falls. Fingon takes down Speed Weaponry. Flak actually absorbed that shot from the 5100, but then fell to a teammate from Fingon. Fingon's able to track JD, and here comes the IS. Panzergunner takes down JD. He gets hit for 301. Swipple, the 5100, the last stand from Simply Irresistible is not going to be enough, and they fall. Zulu Swarm takes another win.
Yeah.
First battle win on Himmelsdorf in the 7x54 format, and that's going to bring us 3-2 so far. Zulu was able to shut down that Tiger 1 so fast, and that southern position became a weakness.
I think it really came down to their opening strategy and the way they approached this. They knew the best strategy that everyone was going to go for. The northwest traditional camp on Himmelsdorf. Something anyone who's been watching the pro format should be very familiar with. And they prepared for it. That's all they had to do. They said, this is the strat that they're going to execute, or at least there's a high probability. If they don't, we're just going to overmatch in the north anyway and probably get the cap. One way or another, it was probably going to work out at least decently well. And simply just kind of walked into it. They just walked right into it with a Tiger. IS-3, smart move there to not go all the way around the corner, but still, you saw a loss of an entire tank right out the box.
Well, this is that type of mentality where Kaiser is sitting in that southern position going, there's tanks here, don't go. Tiger, oh, there's tanks here? And he moves out farther to see where the tanks are. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that, Tiger 1. Don't do that. It's not good. But that's what I saw. As an observer, it was, oh, there's tanks here? Let me go see. This is the last thing you want to do,
no,
especially as a Tiger 1.
Yeah.
If you're a Tog 2, you're not going anywhere. It's more of a, hey, maybe I'll surprise him if I'm a Tog 2.
I mean, you can't
Which could be Brock because it's a tier 6.
You can't afford to stop anyway.
No.
You have to keep moving, or else you'll just sink into the road.
Well, then that's true. That's true. Then you have to put your oars out there, and everybody has to
start rowing.
Has to row through cobblestone. It's a tough endeavor, but it builds your back muscles, kids. All right, battle number 6 between Zulu Swarm and Simply Irresistible. What do we have for tanks?
All right, we've got a 110, two 5100s, two IS-3s, IS-2. That's Zulu Swarm, same lineup again. Simply Irresistible, 5100s, 2 of them, 3 IS-3s, and 2 Tiger 1s. Same deal as well. So we've got a very heavy alpha lineup, but we've got so many hit points here. The ISs bring a good health pool, 1,230 for Panzergunner, and Kugelmat with 1,280. Now everyone's going to have to start thinking more about these tier 7 and tier 6 tanks and their hit points. It's just one of those little things that the pro players probably haven't been giving so much thought to because they never encountered these tanks. And now that they're around, you have to think about how many shells is it to kill an IS, but how many shells is it to kill an IS-2, which has ever so slightly more.
Ever so slightly more indeed. 6 minutes.
Oh,
20 seconds. You'll notice there has been a change. It's 7 minutes on the time clock for those that are...
But would you look at this? It's a blitz out of Simply Irresistible. And they're going right towards the 8 line, which is where Zulu Swarm currently is. And that should stop them cold. And with that, there might be a flank from the 5100s that are to the west at this current juncture.
Well, there is some traded fire. Panzergunner takes 360. Flak took 375 in those IS-3s. A little bit more return fire as the spread from Zulu Swarm is heading slightly more to the west.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to go for a flank. 2 5100s, an IS, and an IS-2 heading west. They're going to encounter a single 5100 Swipple, who I do not... Has he spotted them? They don't seem to be paying him much mind. And that's going to be a huge overmatch waiting to happen. The response from Simply Irresistible is very important right now. If they move forward or if they bring in the support.
Swipple knows this is the end. He's going to go out with a bang. Fires against the 5100. One more shot. He can't get it. Swipple's down. Another tank has fallen for Simply Irresistible. The first tank for this battle has fallen for them. And as Kaiser, JD, and Flak push up against these tanks, they need to focus fire. They need to keep moving and get the isolation against these IS-3s. The 110 takes a big hit for 610 in that volley. JD is low. And a little bit of body blocking happening for Simply Irresistible. They're not focusing on the same tank. Maticus still left alive. He now falls. Kaiser, Viticus trying to get behind Frodo Baggins as he's going to fire into Flak for 328. Pork Chop takes 2 hits, 3 hits One more shot and he will fall. Simply Irresistible holding the line effectively against Zulu Swarm, but Zulu still has 3 tanks on the battlefield that Simply has to deal with. Speed weaponry is low in that T1. Alanon, one more shot could take him, but I think Alanon's out of shots, Real Kill, and he's on the escape.
And now Bobby is also fighting against Fingon over in the west. They're both on their reloads right now, but chasing down, we've got Bobby with way more hit points. While slightly to the northeast, that Alanon speed weaponry fight is going on. Right there in the 8 line, we've got a blue win. Simply Irresistible coming out ahead.
And there goes Alanon, and Simply Irresistible puts one more mark on that score.
All right.
One away from taking it.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting strategy. Let's talk about that. A blitz right at the beginning to deny your opponent the ability to set up as they would like. You saw Zulu heading up the 8 line of Himmelsdorf, good old place as any, to get across the map into the north and to begin attacking your opponent's traditional base. That traditional base being the one, the very farthest to the north. And Zulu Swarm actually does a very competent response in this situation. Isolate a tank and they get the first kill. And it's even a tier 8 5100. No better pickup than that. After that, though, Simply Irresistible does something good, but their execution on it is, it needs a little bit of work. You're going to notice, look at the way the turrets are turning on each and every single one of these tanks in the fight, every single blue tank. You're noticing Kaiser was looking at the wrong way at an IS-3 pork chop. All of them should have been focusing on Matt. And Matt goes down a little bit later than he probably should have. Now, focus does eventually get under control, and Pork Chop does go down. And you can see tanks turning away for the Tiger 1 to get the kill. I like the way Simple Tankers handle the situations. There are little things, though, that they could have worked on to execute just a little bit better, a little bit higher level, and that would have made this a much more one-sided battle for them, because their strategy and their opening move was exactly what they needed.
Some more polish, some more experience, and Simply Irresistible could be up there with Simple Tankers or Simp Main, who have been joining us for a long time. It might be one hell of a fight if we see it tomorrow night. Simply Irresistible versus Simple Tankers, and the winner moves on into the season.
Yes.
That would be big. That'd be a big fight. All right. Well, they still have to get through this one, and Zulu Swarm could make a comeback here on Himmelsdorf as we move into battle number 7. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
All right, a little bit of a change up here, guys. 110, 25100s, and IS-3. We're going to see a T-32 on Himmelsdorf for the first time in a long time, played by Frodo T. Baggins.
What does a T stand for?
The tank.
Got it.
It's tank. So I think that was the... Yeah, there's a little bit more complex than simply meaning tank. Never mind. I want to kind of focus on this.
Sure,
I think this is, yeah, sorry to jump
I'm looking at your screen.
All right, T-32 IS, and then they've got the T-29 as well. So they're going for those American tanks. Good damage output, good hull armor. I'm not sure about the hull downs they're going to get. And then we've got Simply Irresistible, the 25100s, 3 IS-3s, 2 Tiger 1s. But what is the opening move from Simply Irresistible? Because now they are on the attack.
One tank has gone hillside. It's that heavy. Let's see which one it was. Bobby! Bobby in the 5100 is cycling around the castle. Nothing has been spotted for Simply Irresistible as they're moving close to that Delta line up Tank Alley.
Oh, now I see. I just realized, sorry Josh to interrupt you, I just realized what the T-32 is going to be used for in this battle. Because you have so many more resources now with the new format, the fact that you got the 54 points, you can add some bigger tanks, not tier 8s all the time, but you can add these tier 7s, this IS and this T-29. Frodo T. Baggins in the T-32 is hiding all of his weak points and is hull down against Bobby.
And fires against Bobby for 300 damage.
Nice. That is exactly what they want. That's going to make Simply Irresistible's attack a little bit more difficult. Every bit of damage counts. It's all you need just to get a little bit of damage here and there. But Simply Irresistible has Tigers, and they have 1,500 hit points. That's the same as an IS-3. Tier 7 tank, Tier 8 level hit points. That is why they're bringing it. And you can look at the other Tier 7's hit points, not nearly as much. 1,230, 1,250. And that's going to mean they can waste a few more hit points and still be a little bit heavier than their opponent here.
Grouping up on the other side of the courtyard is Simply Irresistible in the red. They are the aggressors, the attackers. In the blue, Zulu Swarm currently defending. Flack's going to peek around the corner. Maticus fires off a shot in the 110. No connection. Possibly. Or Kaiser,
That's
no.
Kaiser. Kaiser takes the hit.
Got hit. Bobby takes another hit. And now the press. JD gets hit for 666 in that volley. Seeing that number again. Kaiser and Vo now focus on Maticus. And now we're seeing a concentration.
Yeah, but there's a crossfire. Zulu Swarm has a beautiful crossfire, and Simple needs to get into a better position. They need to get out of this and focus on one of the tanks and one of the flanks. And they have just lost 2 tanks in exchange for 1. Hit points are not looking strong enough in their favor to really say they're coming out ahead yet.
Panzergunner now getting from behind. Focuses on Swipple for 1 shot and 2. Fingon is able to get it as he is very, very low in the 5100. He's going to fall back. More HP on the side of Zulu Swarm. Speed weaponry is able to fall. Flak takes a hit. Frodo goes down. Trading fire on both sides. Simply Irresistible is now going to move towards the flag cap. His Panzergunner takes a hit for 369. Fires again into Kaiser. Kugamat now getting closer.
Flak turned and blocked Kaiser for just a few seconds, and that hurt a lot. Kaiser taking 2 shells just because one of his allies was not paying attention to his positioning. And now we do have a situation where Simply can come back. They have enough hit points. They also have position. They have their opponent's cap under their control. They have hit points in Alpha. And their opponent has tier 7s where they have some tier 8s. And that is a crucial missed shot by Panzergunner and a crucial bounce by Flak. Both sides just making little mistakes or little things happening to them that are throwing this match way off. Kuga just going in and getting a kill. Beautiful.
That T-29, we talked about it earlier, Randall, and now it's going to take 2 more hits and could fall from 1 more in that IS-3. Flak is hit.
Ooh, bounce by Kuga.
And Flak is able to get the win against Kuga. But Panzergunner has way too much hit points, and he gets hit in the tracks, and Flak goes down. Zulu Swarm can take this. Fingon and Panzergunner now moving up. Bobby in the 5100, not sure how many shots he has left or if he's even loaded.
He's got shells. He was just loaded in time for that engagement, and this is very dangerous. Panzergunner should just go around the corner, and Fingon can come with him. But they can take the defender's advantage.
Oh, Fingon is able to get the kill. Missed shot from Bobby on that one.
Bobby, he could have gotten that and maybe worked with it to get the IS. Very thin, but possible.
Yep.
And that was a clutch that I really wish could have happened. Sorry.
No. It's okay. That's why I got that call sign in the Air Force, because I was there when people needed me at all times. All right. Unfortunately, not the same for Bobby. Got taken out. But still, hope is kindled and left alive for Simply Irresistible, as they are 1 battle away from taking this series. However, Zulu Swarm brings up another win. That's going to bring us to 4-3 as we move into battle number 8, the last battle.
And I think you still saw Simply Irresistible play better in this situation. They may have lost, but they walked into a crossfire and they managed to walk out of it on nearly even footing. They did make some mistakes, and I should probably take back the initial statement based on that, because they did not follow through. Their ability to follow through in that last battle was disappointing. They weren't able to make the shots they needed, and I think maybe that 5100 was that was Bobby. Bobby was not quite being aggressive as he could have, and definitely when tanks were turned one towards another tank in IS-3, he was not taking advantage of that. I think that might be team communication, not communicating where turrets are turned and when people are open to fire. It also could have been Bobby on the reload, and I could give him that, and that would be a kind of a cop-out in that situation. You could say, I was reloading. I couldn't have done anything. And that could be enough to say, you know, that's why. Simply a little bit of timing on autoloaders.
But then you can go back further and say, hey, if you would have landed all 6 of your shots, maybe we wouldn't be in this scenario.
You're right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We must go deeper.
We can keep going down and down and down. There's all sorts of little things that you can take apart, because
everything matters. Everything matters in World of Tanks. Let's go ahead and jump into battle number 8 between Zulu Swarm and Simply Irresistible. Randall, one more time, what do we have for tanks?
No big surprises. I think we saw this one last time. Zulu Swarm, blue team, playing the defense, is going to have a 110 to 5100s. Autoloaders right there, the damage dealers. IS-3 for little alpha, T-32, IS, and the T-29. That T-32 and that T-29 are playing crucial defensive positions, one of them covering each cap point in a hold-down position. When they get into position, I'll be sure to show everyone how those are going to work out. But in the meantime, they are just going to set up in the basic camp position. Simply Irresistible, though. What are they up to?
They have a slight difference in approach here. I'm waiting for which tanks are going to commit to Tank Alley and which will not. Looks like Flak and JD are committing to Tank Alley as Vode is heading west along with Kaiser.
I guess they're maybe preparing for that blitz for the 8 line from Zulu Swarm, the same strategy the Simple Tankers. Simply Irresistible. Accidentally call them Simple Tankers a lot, aren't I?
It's all right.
Yeah.
Part of the same clan. Well, I am venturing a guess that Simply Irresistible wants to have 2 points of pressure on this map. The unfortunate thing about that is if they try to get on the flag cap on the west, there's plenty of tanks. 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks looking that direction, I'm sure, to stop that. Simply Irresistible, again, playing as the attackers in red. The defenders Zulu Swarm in blue. Zulu must win this. They are out of the qualifier and have to re-sign for the second qualifier next week if they do not win this one. If they do win, we go into a tiebreaker scenario.
All right, is this the same strat as last time almost? Is this going to be the same execution where we see them walk into the crossfire again and just run that gauntlet and see if they can make it?
If it was, we'd be engaging right now. I feel Simply Irresistible is more cautious on this side of a loss.
I think they're waiting for Kaiser as well, the IS-3 running through the back there. He's once he's in position, we may see that, but they're also not putting a tank in the northeast this time. That 5100 that was there last time.
Oh, Kaiser's going for it. He's now open into the fray. He's pressing along with Flak first, and he is able to bounce one shot. His IS-3 turned just in time. Shot fired against Maticus. And Kaiser blocks another shot as Bobby from behind is focusing on Maticus in the 110 first. Kaiser, speed weaponry, and Flak now need to continue to push west. Don't turn around. But that's what they're doing. They're still caught in the crossfire.
All right, we do have tanks moving in. Frodo's going to be waiting for that crossfire off in the distance. IS still waiting to get into position. And Alanon not in the right amount of cover. Swipple is able to take him down. Just barely ahead. He is one shot from death, and will go to Panzer Gunner.
Swipple falls. JD gets hit again. And the focus fire now on the eastern side of these tanks, where most of the armor is the thickest. Well, Frodo Baggins gets a big shot against JD. But now the speed of the Tiger 1 trying to get behind that T-32. And this could be a great shot from speed weaponry, except he hits the tracks and it does not go through. Vode trying to get the kill here, focusing way too long on this T-32. Now he finally goes down. The IS at 5100 and the T-29 still healthy and ready to fight against what's left of Simply Irresistible. Bobby out of the fight, too low, perhaps reloading as Vode and the Tiger 1 focus on Panzer Gunner. A bounce shot from Kaiser and another missed shot from Vode. They cannot be missing these shots. Vode taking way too much damage, now trying to move to the south position as the Panzer Gunner and the IS stays alive, and Kaiser can't get a shot. But a shot coming from the other side. Speed weaponry goes down.
Oh, and from the south, that's Bobby. He is finally loaded, getting shells into tanks.
And notice they're focusing on the 5100, Randall. That's the best choice they can make right now.
Completely agree with that assessment.
And they take him down. Nice shot. Tiger 1, Vode barely alive here. The IS could be the next one to fall. He does. Nice shot from Kaiser. That patience now pulling itself together for Simply Irresistible here as Kugamat and the T-29's the last tank alive to get the victory.
Oh, and he is not moving quite fast enough. He could face hug this IS-3, and if Kaiser isn't quite familiar enough with the layout, you know, not having played against it enough, he could actually come out ahead in that 1v1. Looks like Kaiser knows what's up.
Kaiser knows where to fire against that T-29, fire into the hole. And there comes Bobby in the 5100. Gets the shot and the kill and the victory for Simply Irresistible.
That was well played. I did not expect it to turn out quite like that. I thought running into the gauntlet again was going to be